unabashed,
the most unpredictable,
becomes a headline,
the most volatile,
outrageous behavior,
unsubstantiated narratives, a battle of personalities.
Welcome to Grand Tamasha, a co-production of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and the Hindustan Times. I'm your host, Milind Vaishnav. It's been more than 3 months since the conclusion of India's massive 2024 general elections, and it's no exaggeration to say that the results of the election caught many, if not most, election observers by surprise. To many, the BJP appeared invincible on the national stage, especially given the widespread popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And yet, the party suffered a significant setback, emerging as the single largest party, but well short of a parliamentary majority. The opposition India Alliance, in turn, did far better than most had predicted, with its largest party, the Indian National Congress, nearly doubling its seat tally. So what actually happened in the 2024 elections? How can we understand the BJP's surprise showing? Has the Modi magic dissipated? And is Rahul Gandhi the new standard bearer of change? To discuss these and many other questions, I'm joined on the show today by Sanjay Kumar. Sanjay is professor at the Center for the Study of Developing Societies, New Delhi, and co-director of Lokniti, India's premier public opinion research organization. Since 1996, Lokniti has carried out a national election study after each and every general election, creating a unique repository of knowledge on the political and social attitudes of the Indian citizen. To talk more about the 2024 results, drawing on insights from this year's national election study, I'm pleased to welcome Sanjay Kumar to the show for the very first time. Sanjay ji, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me for this discussion.
So I want to start this conversation by taking us back to a pre-election survey that Lokniti did back before voting began. And I want to quote something that you and your co-authors Suhas Palshikar and Sandeep Shastri wrote in the Hindu newspaper summarizing the results of the poll. I should just say for our listeners, the poll estimated an all-India vote share of 40% for the Modi-led BJP, which was about 3.5 percentage points higher than what we eventually saw. This is what you had to say in that piece. The BJP was leading in terms of possible vote share, but the respondents were upset about economic distress. Those who were not convinced that Achhe Din, or good days, have come, did not show the same enthusiasm in voting for the BJP. And therein lies the most fascinating aspect of this election. The BJP is leading not because of its economic performance, but despite the lack of it, end quote. Take us back to that moment in April, Sanjay ji. Describe for us, if you can, where this contest stood before a single vote had been cast.
Milind, I would like to cite one more data from the pre-poll survey. We did ask a question, do you want this government to be re-elected? A very large number of people, much larger compared to proportion of people who mentioned in 2019 that they want this government to be re-elected, much larger proportion of people in the pre-poll 2024 survey mentioned they don't want this government to be re-elected. So what was happening, the large number of people didn't want this government to be re-elected, but when it came to voting, and you refer to the voting question, we did ask which party you're likely to vote for. So some of them ended up saying in the pre-poll survey that they would end up voting for the BJP even though they don't want this government to be re-elected. And one of the reasons was that people saw that there was very little prospects of the opposition. There was no alternative. So when the election did not begin, not even the first vote was cast, at that time, the atmosphere or the perception was such that elections will be definitely won by Prime Minister Modi, BJP. So even if I don't want this government to be re-elected, but I might end up voting for the BJP because I don't have a good choice. That is why in the pre-poll survey, the estimates of vote share was much higher compared to the estimate of people who wanted this government to be re-elected.
So I want to talk about the post-poll, the 2024 national election study. But before we do that, I just want to clarify a few things for our listeners and want to ask your help in doing so. Post polls and exit polls are two very different things, and some of our listeners may not be aware of the difference. To walk us through, if you could, the broad methodology of the Lokniti survey. How did you and your colleagues carry out the post-poll survey in 2024?
Let me first explain the difference between the exit poll and the post poll. Sometimes when we say that Lokniti does post poll survey, people tend to believe that maybe you are doing the survey after election results are out. And people say, what's the utility of doing such a poll, post poll, after everything is over? No, the post poll survey is conducted soon after the voting takes place, but we complete the field work. The data collection process is completed before the counting takes place. So it allows, in a phased election, as 2024 Lok Sabha election was in 7 phases, it allows us time between different phases of election to do the data collection. So that is how we have done the post-poll survey. Went to the field after every round of voting, collected the data, but technically we are not allowed to make the data public. So we kept collecting the data. Exit poll are always done on the day of voting. So in the post poll, we are able to select the voter completely on a random basis. We go to the people's house, we collect the people from whom we want to collect the data, collect the information through the electoral rolls, and it's done completely randomly. On an exit poll, the people are standing at the polling station, whosoever is coming out from the polling booth after casting his or her vote. So he or she is being interviewed. Randomization is not possible. Normally, people tend to oversample the young, people tend to oversample male, people tend to oversample the urban voter. I think that's one big problem with the exit poll, because you are not able to randomize. There are other problems as well. You can't ask too many questions, so you're not able to correlate between one response to the other. In a post poll, we can randomize, we go to people's houses, we speak to large number of people, and we ask large number of questions. That's the basic difference between exit poll and post poll. Exit poll always done on the day of voting. Post poll normally the next day after the voting is over.
And tell us a little bit beyond the post-poll, exit poll differentiation. When it comes to the sample size, the number of states, constituencies, give us the kind of macro picture of the data you collected for the 2024 post-poll survey.
So if you look at our post-poll survey and the various agencies which conduct exit polls, you will see the difference, one difference in terms of sample size. We go by very small sample size compared to what others do. If you look at other people, other agencies, other organizations who have done exit polls, they would have samples in several lakhs. We took a sample of 20,000. So what we did, we selected 20 parliamentary constituencies all over the country randomly. We excluded the states of Northeast because of logistic issues. But we included Jammu and Kashmir, we went to Goa, Tamil Nadu, every state except the 6-7 states of the Northeast. So we selected 200 parliamentary constituencies. Within the parliamentary constituencies, we selected the assembly segments because each parliamentary constituency has different assembly segments. All this is done randomly. Then we select the locations, what is called the polling booths, polling station. A typical polling station would mean a locality in an urban location or a village, or if it's a large village, one side of the village. And then in the selected polling station, when I say selected, it is randomly selected. We use systematic random sampling technique to select parliamentary constituencies, assembly constituency within the parliamentary constituencies, then the location, and finally we select our respondents using the most updated electoral roll of that in that election. So we select respondents, people go to the field, try and locate the respondents who have been selected using systematic random sample, and we try and interview only and only those who are on our sample list. Since normally we tend to interview between 20 to 25 people at one location, we would normally do an oversampling, assuming that all the people whom we select will not be present there for various reasons. You will not be able to interview all the people who will be on the list. So we tend to do oversampling. People go to the field. In some locations, investigator end up doing 15, 16 interviews. Some locations, they might do 23, 24, 27. And that is how we targeted for 20,000. We ended up doing 19,664 samples for our post poll. Because sometimes people also ask this question, is this a magic number? Why this number is 19,664? Why the sample in pre-poll was 10,113 or something like that? Because we target in like pre-poll, we targeted 10,000 and we ended up doing few more than what was the target.
Thank you for going through that, Sanjay ji. I think it's very important because I think sometimes people get enamored with these large numbers of saying, oh, we did a exit poll of 400,000 citizens across India. But the beauty of statistics, obviously, is that if you do your random sampling correctly, you can come up with an efficient estimate of not just the overall vote choice, but then also how various subgroups, say men, women, young, old, rural, urban, decide how to vote. And in fact, that's exactly what you've done. Let me just start with, of course, what the headline was from this election, which is that the BJP won around 36.5% of the vote. It was about 1 percentage point less than in 2019. But because of the distribution of that vote, the BJP only won 240 seats. So for the first time in the Modi era, the party had to rely on its National Democratic Alliance partners, NDA partners, to form a parliamentary majority. And I think, as I said at the beginning, this result surprised many, if not most, political observers. I want to get into the details of the post-poll. But before I do that, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times before. When you step back and have to give a kind of 30,000-foot level explanation at the kind of macro level, what's your best summary of this surprising result?
I think BJP tried to pitch this election on national issues. So BJP tried to foreground the issue of Hindutva. BJP tried to foreground the issue of Ram Mandir, Article 370, and BJP went to the people saying, these are big achievements of BJP government. We have been promising this in our manifesto. But what happened is that the fever of nationalism has come down substantially. BJP, I think, failed to realize in the first few phases of election. And people were more concerned about their day-to-day worries. And the day-to-day worries means price rise, unemployment, like getting job. So these issues got foregrounded. And these issues resonated with the voters in a much bigger manner in 2024 compared to what we saw in the previous election. And when I say previous election, I am referring to the 2019 Lok Sabha election and various state assembly elections held between 2019 and 2024. So I think that made the difference. BJP thought that nationalism is going to subside the real issues of the people as it has happened in 2019. But what happened is that maybe people believe that, okay, we had given majority to the BJP in 2019 and the majority, BJP was seeking majority for construction of Ram Temple, for abolition of Article 370. So this has been done and we have paid our dividend for BJP to the BJP in 2019. Now we want to move ahead. I think that's the mistake in making a sense of what people really are looking forward to. And that changed the results compared to what was expected in the pre-poll or what was expected from the exit poll estimates.
So let me kind of flip this around a little bit and ask you about the India Alliance, right? So this is a coalition of more than 24 political parties. Many of them have their own grievances with one another, but they set those aside in order to fight these elections on a common plank, essentially of keeping the BJP out of power. That India Alliance won 234 seats. The Congress was its leading constituent party. It won almost 100 seats. The election survey data that you collected suggests that the campaign, that 7-phase election that went on for several weeks, that did have a significant impact on voter decision-making because the India Alliance won a large number of voters who made up their minds during the campaign itself. So I'd like to ask you, in your opinion, what aspects of the India Alliance campaign struck a chord or resonated with voters?
The overconfidence of BJP, or I would say overconfidence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, actually affected the BJP. You would remember that Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave a call. He said, "Is baar 400 par, for NDA 400 par, and for BJP we should be aiming to get 370." Once he also mentioned that once I assume the Prime Ministership for the third time, I'm going to take very tough decisions right at the beginning in the first 6 months of my tenure. So what happened is that the India Alliance, they started campaigning on the ground and they started connecting the few disconnected things, and they did it successfully. And what were those? The campaign was, look, in order to form the government, a party needs only 272, 273 seats. Why is Prime Minister Modi aiming to get 400? Because if you get a 400, if you have 400 in the parliament, you can change the very basic principles of the constitution. Because for changing the, some aspects of the constitution, you need a 2/3 majority. If you don't have the 2/3 majority, you won't be able to change various aspects of the constitution. So what they started campaigning, that Prime Minister Modi or BJP is aiming to get 370 or 400 because they want to change the very, some special aspects of the constitution. And what they will change the provisions of reservation. And if the provisions of reservation is changed, eliminated, tampered with, who are going to be at the receiving end? The OBCs, the Dalits, and the tribals are going to be at the receiving end. So these things, India Alliance, the leaders of various India Alliance partners started campaigning on this issue. And then people slowly and gradually started believing that, okay, there seems to be some logic to this. And that is why as we move from phase 1 to phase 2, 3, 4 and 5, BJP kept losing phase by phase. And that is why what election looked like in April did not turn out to be the same when the votes were counted in early June.
Sanjay, I think one of the challenges with interpreting this election is the variation in outcomes across states, which on the surface look very similar, right? So if I could just pick two examples, the BJP swept all 29 seats in the state of Madhya Pradesh, but could only win half of all seats in neighboring Rajasthan. If you look further east, the BJP lost a significant number of seats in Uttar Pradesh, but its alliance won 75% of the seats in neighboring Bihar. What is the best way to understand how we got such wildly divergent outcomes in this set of Hindi belt states where the BJP has traditionally been very strong?
It is easier to explain the difference in the verdict in UP and Bihar compared to in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, while I will try and give my explanation for Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh as well. But look at UP and Bihar. Look at the alliance. In UP, BSP was contesting elections separately. And when India Alliance started campaigning on this whole issue of constitution is in danger, reservation provisions may be in danger if BJP comes to power, and the Dalit voters realized that Mayawati is not in the contest at all. So a very large number of Dalit votes shifted in favor of India Alliance. Second, and this did not happen in Bihar because the two Dalit parties, the parties which get large number of Dalit votes, Paswan's party and Jitan Ram Manjhi's party, both were on the side of NDA, not on the side of RJD. Second, the ticket distribution pattern. If you look at how the ticket was distributed by Samajwadi Party leader Akhilesh Yadav, normally people always blame Samajwadi Party as a party of the Yadavs. But of all the tickets which were distributed by Akhilesh Yadav, there were only 5 Yadavs, all from the Yadav family, and a very large number of non-Yadav lower OBC were given ticket. And our post-poll survey clearly indicates that there was a big shift of lower OBC vote, Dalit vote in favor of India alliance, not to say that Yadav consolidation was on its peak, Muslim consolidation in favor of India alliance was on its peak. And we know how BJP suffered in UP. But if you look at Bihar, the ticket distribution was not done as well as it was done in UP. India alliance could not manage to get the Dalit vote. They were able to polarize, they were able to mobilize the Yadav vote and the Muslim vote, the traditional Yadav-Muslim combination, but that was not enough for them to, pull large number of seats away from NDA. That's the difference. That's why we see different verdict in UP and Bihar. Now, when we come to Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, I think the genesis of that was in the assembly election which were held few months back. If you look at the assembly elections in Rajasthan, even though Congress got defeated, but Congress was very close. The difference in the vote share of Congress and BJP in the assembly election was just 2.5-3%. But if you look at Madhya Pradesh assembly election verdict, BJP led by a huge margin over Congress. Very large margin, BJP's biggest victory in Madhya Pradesh. Second, the Jats and the Dalit disenchantment was very high in Rajasthan against the BJP, and that was not the factor in Madhya Pradesh. And the other factor which we don't get from the survey, but from what was happening on the ground, I think the party was more united in Rajasthan. I'm referring to the Congress party compared to what was happening in Madhya Pradesh. There were a lot of divisions within the Congress in Madhya Pradesh, and the last factor in Rajasthan, Congress finally managed to form clever alliances. They gave tickets to their alliance partner. They did not contest all the 25 seats. But in Madhya Pradesh, they went alone. Remember in assembly election also, when there was a situation of Samajwadi Party and Congress forming an alliance, they didn't do that. Congress made that mistake in Rajasthan in assembly election also, but they did not make that mistake in Rajasthan in the Lok Sabha election. I think that made a huge difference.
Hey, Grant Tamasha listeners. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Putting this show together each week is a labor of love, but it takes a lot of work to put out a great show every week. If you'd like to support the work we do at Grant Tamasha, please visit ceip.org/donate. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or on your favorite podcasting platform, so you'll be the first to know when a new episode rolls out. One of the things that we spoke about earlier, but not in detail, and I just want to bring us back to this, is the question of Narendra Modi and his leadership. Because one of the most interesting findings to come out of the post-poll survey is that Prime Minister Modi's image has been dented somewhat. If you go back and look at the Lokniti survey from 2014, 36% of respondents identified Modi as their preferred prime minister. That percentage rose to 47%, very high in 2019, but in 2024 it dipped again to 41%. Is the survey able to tell us why Modi's popularity has come down somewhat?
Yeah, two factors. We did ask a question in the survey about the way BJP was inducting leaders from various other political parties, irrespective of their credentials. So what has happened is that a very large number of people said, they started not disliking, but the image of Modi has got dented because BJP is inducting leaders from various political parties, irrespective of their credentials, irrespective of their image. BJP has inducted those leaders whom they were criticizing only a couple of days ago. And a very large number of people believe that Prime Minister Modi must be, at the helm of affairs. This must be all done with the knowledge of Prime Minister Modi. That has dented the image of Prime Minister Modi. Second, Prime Minister Modi has been a popular leader, but I think Rahul Gandhi's poor image has actually added to Prime Minister Modi's popularity in 2019 and 2014 elections. Now, since Rahul Gandhi is seen as slightly more popular, so all those who had supported Prime Minister Modi earlier because they didn't see anyone as a challenger. Some people started looking at Rahul Gandhi as a challenger, or at least some merit in Rahul Gandhi. So his popularity has gone up. And that is why we see Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popularity going down. So these are the two factors. One is by default, because by default, if Rahul Gandhi's popularity has gone up, people have started liking. So some such voters who tended to like Modi because they didn't like Rahul Gandhi or they didn't see any future, so they have come back in support of Rahul Gandhi, and Prime Minister Modi's support has come down.
Sanjay ji, you mentioned in the previous answer, in trying to understand the differential outcome, say in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, that in Rajasthan you saw the Jats and the Dalits, the scheduled castes, both turn against the BJP, and that's something that didn't necessarily happen in Madhya Pradesh. Let me ask you about the BJP's social coalition more broadly. If you look at the past decade, at the data that you and your colleagues have collected, it's pretty clear that the BJP under Mr. Modi, under his lieutenant Amit Shah, have built a very impressive Hindu social coalition. So the party has retained its base of upper caste voters, but they have made significant inroads amongst backwards, OBCs, amongst Dalits, and amongst tribals or Adivasis. Tell us, in the wake of the 2024 elections, where does this social coalition stand? Among which groups have we seen the greatest changes?
The greatest changes, positive in favor of BJP, the tribals. So BJP has been able to make more inroads among the tribals. If you look at the data, if we look at the data from 1996 till 2024, in 1996, or roughly during the time 1996 till 2009, BJP used to get roughly 22 to 24% of the tribal vote, which went up to 44% in 2019, and in 2024 Lok Sabha elections, it went up to 48%. So almost half of the tribal votes is being cornered by BJP, or was cornered by BJP in 2024. But if I look at the Dalits and the OBCs, there is a slight decline in the vote share of BJP, or the support base of BJP among the Dalits. Not drastic decline. In the previous Lok Sabha election, it was 34%. In this Lok Sabha election, it went down to 32%. A marginal decline in support base of BJP among the Dalits and also among the OBC. But if you bifurcate the OBC, we see the difference. Among the lower OBC, BJP is still holding on. But among the upper OBC, BJP has lost 4 or 5% support base. Upper caste, they are still holding on. There is no decline. Muslims, BJP has never got sizable number of Muslim vote. Over last 5, 6, 7, 8 elections, the period from in which we have been collecting the data, roughly 6 to 8% of Muslim vote goes to BJP. This has happened even in 2024. But if you look at the women vote, if you look at the youth vote, if you look at the Muslim vote, even the communities which we are talking about, you rightly mentioned right at the beginning that this election needs to be understood carefully. If someone wants to understand this election carefully, it is important to look at the disaggregate, because there are states where BJP has lost sizable number of support base, and there are states where BJP has made further inroads. So even among these communities, we see whole lot of different patterns. Say suppose for if Dalit vote in Gujarat, maybe BJP managed to make inroads among like couple of percentage more Dalit vote in favor of BJP. But look at UP, huge decline in Dalit support for BJP. So it is important to look at the state-wise disaggregate when we are talking about how voters of different social communities have voted in these elections.
So you raised the question of Muslims, and I think this is a very interesting thing to discuss in light of the election results. There's a lot of political science research, which I'm sure you know very well, which suggests that Muslims do not vote as a bloc. Muslims are divided among regional lines, on linguistic lines, caste lines, just as Hindus and other social communities are. Secondly, there are all kinds of collective action or coordination problems when it comes to trying to manufacture or engineer block voting. Having said that, in these elections, we saw real evidence of Muslims banding together to vote for the India alliance in order to keep the BJP out. Tell us a little bit about how this dynamic played out across states.
You're right, Milind. If we look at how Muslims have voted in this election, for the Congress, it has declined slightly, but largely that is also because Congress contested less seats in 2024 compared to 2019 Lok Sabha election. But if you look at the state-wise pattern, if you look at, say, West Bengal, Muslim voted for Trinamool Congress in a very large number. If we come to Bihar, Muslims voted for India Alliance partner in a very large number. UP, very large number of, very sizable number of votes of Muslims went to the India Alliance. Remember, I also wanted to let the listeners know that even in the assembly elections in UP, a very high polarized vote for Samajwadi Party and its allies among the Muslims. I think that was the highest in terms of like 93-94% of Muslims voted in favor of Samajwadi Party alliance in 2022 assembly elections in UP. If we move state by state, like Delhi, a very sizable number of Muslim vote in favor of Aam Aadmi Party and Congress alliance. If we go to Punjab, not sizable number of Muslims, but in some state it gets split. The idea is Muslim voters were very keen to vote for the party which was in a situation to defeat the BJP. At times they are not able to make a careful choice, careful decision about that. But in most of the states, you will find very large number of Muslim vote coming in favor of the India Alliance bloc. Telangana, Andhra, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, all these states, there is hardly any exception where we would find that Muslims, in sizable number would have voted for the BJP. Also, when we talk about whether Muslims have voted en bloc or not, it is also a function of what is the proportion of Muslim vote in a particular constituency. If we look at the constituencies with sizable number of Muslim voters, 40% plus voters belonging to the Muslim community. In such constituencies, India Alliance did not get large number of votes because then there are sizable number of candidates contesting as independents, etc., etc. So in constituencies where there are very large number of Muslim voters, the tendency there are evidences that Muslim vote gets split. But if you look at those constituencies where Muslims are roughly in the range of 20-25%, in such constituencies, Muslim votes are more concentrated, more mobilized in favor of one party or the other.
One of the things that we haven't touched on yet is what's happening in southern India. And I want to ask you about areas in which the BJP made new inroads, specifically, actually, in addition to the south, also the east. The BJP did quite well in the eastern state of Odisha, including in the state elections, which occurred simultaneously along with national elections. They grew their vote share in virtually all southern states, save for Karnataka, which, of course, is the one southern state where they've traditionally had a hold. Would you go so far as to call this a realignment election as far as the politics of the East and the South are concerned? In other words, is this the beginning of a shakeup of the party system in the southern and eastern regions of India?
If we look at how BJP was strategizing for the 2024 Lok Sabha election, I think BJP knew that in many North Indian states, BJP has already peaked in 2014 and 2019. So it's not a surprise for me that BJP made huge inroads in Odisha, Telangana, Andhra. In Andhra, they formed an alliance with TDP. In Tamil Nadu, in Kerala, because look at the number of visits Prime Minister Modi paid to the southern state. Very large number of visits by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, BJP managed to increase the vote share from 3% to roughly about 12%. In Kerala, they managed to actually win one Lok Sabha seat. In Telangana, they are number 2 party now. BRS is on the margins, so the direct contest in Telangana was between Congress and BJP. It's a huge achievement for BJP. In Andhra, they realized that this is not an election where BJP will be able to make inroads in Andhra Pradesh. So they made a very careful alliance with the TDP, and they gained from having an alliance with TDP. Karnataka was an exception, but yes, in the southern state, they made inroads. In Odisha, I was not surprised. I was surprised by the exact number, but my own sense was BJP had 8 seats in 2019 Lok Sabha elections in Odisha. My own sense was that BJP is definitely at least doubling their number. So 16, 17 was my number. I used to think that BJP would definitely get 16, 17, 18 seats, but BJP performed far better compared to what many people had expected in Odisha. So I think if we look at the last 6 months or 1 year preparations of BJP, this should not surprise people, because BJP has been making effort to make inroads in those states where BJP has been traditionally weak, because BJP knew that if you want to expand, you need to expand in the southern state, in the states where you have been traditionally weak, because every election may not give you 25 out of 25 in Rajasthan, or say a very large number of seats in UP. That is what has happened in 2024 Lok Sabha election.
Sanjay, I want to kind of cast our gaze towards the future a little bit, because we have state elections that are around the corner. We have assembly elections in Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, Jharkhand, and Maharashtra. And these are critical states. And in at least 3 of these 4, the BJP has lost significant ground, at least at the Lok Sabha level, the parliamentary level. As you look ahead at this state of state elections that are right before us, what are some of the things you're going to be looking for in order to evaluate whether the BJP can make up ground that it's lost in the 2024 election?
I think we need to look at in 2 pairs. First, Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana goes to poll by end of this month or in early October. If BJP manages to perform well in Haryana, and good performance of BJP would mean retaining the power in Haryana where they have been in power for the last 10 years, and if they manage to perform well in Jammu and Kashmir, they will have a good electoral prospect for Maharashtra as well as for Jharkhand. But if they lose Haryana, which is most likely, because BJP is not in a very good shape in Haryana, if they lose Haryana and if they don't perform very well in Jammu and Kashmir, which is also likely, because look at the revolt within the BJP. BJP has not been able to get local candidates. So BJP is not very well placed in Haryana as well in Jammu and Kashmir. And if BJP doesn't perform very well, and I would repeat, it's unlikely that BJP might perform very well in both these states. It will have a fallout also in Maharashtra and in Jharkhand. In Maharashtra, their allies will put a lot of pressure on BJP. BJP may not be willing to concede too much of space to the allies. I'm referring to seat distribution. And I think BJP will be in a deeper trouble in Maharashtra, also in Jharkhand. In Jharkhand, they need to form alliance with some smaller regional party. They would find it difficult to find a reliable or a formidable local partner in Jharkhand if they lose election both in Jammu and Kashmir and in Haryana.
Sanjay, I want to just kind of ask you one more thing before we conclude this conversation, which is getting back to where we started on the exit polls. As we said at the outset, Lokniti CSDS is not in the business of doing exit polls. You are really the only social science research organization that does independent opinion surveys, which around elections are pre-polls or post-polls. But I want to just reflect a little bit on the exit poll disaster. I think it's safe to say it was a disaster where most entities conducting exit polls got the results not just wrong, but badly wrong. You mentioned the issue of lack of random sampling. That may have been a consideration. What are the factors that you think went into this debacle? And do you think that there are going to be any lessons learned for the future?
I'm not sure whether people will learn any lessons for the future. I think elections are round the corner in Haryana or in Jammu and Kashmir. And I'm sure many television channels would be showing exit poll on the 5th of October when the last vote is casted. There would be channels showing exit poll and there would be people who would be doing exit poll. without learning any lessons. So I'm not sure whether any lessons are being learned or not. But I think there could be several problems with regard to how the exit polls were conducted in 2024. You have rightly mentioned we are not sure about whether the samples were random or not. But I think the biggest problem was with regard to how do you make assessment of the number of seats likely to be won by political party based on the vote share estimate. So the large number of people who did exit poll estimated higher vote share for BJP compared to 2019 Lok Sabha election. And based on that, many agencies, many people who conducted exit poll believe that a higher vote share would definitely give higher number of seats. And that is why the projection of seats by many exit poll agencies was in the range of 380 to 400 seats. But sometimes one should also realize that we have a system, what is called first past the post electoral system. And it happens many times that the vote share can go up, but your seats may not go up. While it is true that even the vote share estimates were not right because many people estimated 40, 41, 42% vote share. BJP finally ended up getting 36.6% vote. But vote seat conversion, this is a very tricky relationship, and many people don't have the technical skills to convert vote share into seats. Just to give an example for the listener, look at 2014 Lok Sabha elections in UP. BSP ended up getting 19.6% vote. They did not manage to get even one single seat in the parliament. If you look at the 2022 assembly election in UP, the vote share of Congress was 2.3% and they ended up getting 2 seats in the assembly. I should also refer the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, UP, for the Congress. Congress had 7% vote and they ended up getting 2 seats. So a party with 20% votes ends up with 0 seats and a party with 7% vote ends up with 2 seats. It is about concentration and spread of votes. In 2022 assembly elections in UP, Congress with 2.3% vote ends up getting 2 assembly seats and BSP with 13.7% votes ends up getting 1 assembly seat. There are many examples of that kind. Karnataka, if you look at the 2008 Lok Sabha assembly election and 2013 assembly election and also 2018 assembly election, all these assembly election, the vote share of Congress has been higher compared to the vote share of BJP, but BJP has managed to get more seats compared to Congress. So vote seat relationship is very tricky. You need to figure out how do you convert vote share into seats. And I think many people who engage in the business of exit poll don't have any technical skills about how do you convert vote share into seats. It's not a simple mathematical formula that if the vote share has gone up, seats will definitely go up.
My guest on the show this week is Dr. Sanjay Kumar. He is a professor at the Center for the Study of Developing Societies in New Delhi and co-director of Lokniti, India's premier public opinion research organization. He previously served as the director of CSDS from 2014 to 2020. I think, Sanjay ji, you've shown in the last 45 minutes why you are in so much in demand when it comes to elections and politics. That was really a kind of an encyclopedic run-through of the 2024 polls. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Milan, for inviting me. My pleasure.
Grantamasha is a co-production of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and the Hindustan Times. This podcast is an HT Smartcast original and is available on htsmartcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to rate and review. It helps others find the show more easily. For more information about the show, to support the work we do on Grantamasha, and to find the writing we mentioned on this week's episode, visit our website, grantamasha.com. Tim Martin is our audio engineer. Mira Verghese is our executive producer. Additional assistance is provided by Annabelle Richter. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.
This was a Hindustan Times production brought to you by HT Smartcast.
HT Smartcast.